Hey, it's Dan, and in this video we'll replace the spark plug on this Yamaha TW200. This job's about a 1 out of 5 for difficulty. It should only take you a couple minutes to finish. This is the first in a series of videos to get this bike up and running again. It hasn't been used for a few years, so it needs a little bit of care. Be sure to subscribe and keep an eye out for the subsequent videos. You can follow the same directions on many other motorcycles, especially dirt bikes and cruisers where the plugs are easy to get to and visible. If you're working on something like a sport bike with fairings and a gas tank on top of it, it's going to be a lot more work to get to the plugs. Once you get to them, the job is exactly the same. So you'll need a new plug. The TW takes the NGK model D8EA. You'll need a plug gapping tool. These are pretty cheap and easy to get at auto parts stores or online. If you don't have one and don't want to buy it but have a feeler gauge, that'll work too. It might make gapping a little bit more difficult. You'll need a socket that's deep enough to cover the spark plug. The size is going to be 18 millimeters or 3/4 inch. A torque wrench capable of going up to 12 foot-pounds. Some anti-seize lube. I like to put that on the threads of the new plug as I install it to make removal in the future easier. And either an air compressor, paper towels, or some shop towels to clean up the area around the plug. So it's important not to get any dirt inside of the engine, so the first thing I'll do is use some compressed air to clean up the area around the plug. Next up, I'll remove the boot and use a deep socket to remove the old plug. So you just pull it straight up. Once you break it loose, just use your hand to fully remove it. Now, before you install the new plug, you want to double check that it's gapped properly, meaning that the gap between the electrode and ground is within spec. On this bike, the spec calls for somewhere between 0.6 and 0.7 millimeters, which is about 0.024 and 0.028 inches. And the way that you want to do this is to start with the most narrow part of the gauge first. You'll slide it into the plug, and then rotate it gently until you start feeling resistance. Once there, just read out the dial. So in my case, it's right at around 0.026 inches, which is exactly the center range of the spec. Since the plug is where I need it to be, I don't need to make any adjustments. If your plug is out of spec, you'll want to make the correction. The important part here is to take your time and take baby steps. So make an adjustment, take the measurement, and repeat if needed. If your gap is too big, all you need to do is tap the plug on a hard surface a couple of times, repeat the measurement. If the gap is too small, you want to use your adjustment tool, which is the little hole here, loop it around the ground, and gently lift it up. You don't want to jam a screwdriver or anything else hard between the electrode and the ground, or it could damage the electrode. Once you're sure that your gap is correct, take a little bit of anti-seize lube, put some on the threads, it really doesn't take much, and hand start it. Now you really want to take your time, make sure that you start it by hand. Do not use a wrench right away or you risk cross-threading it, which is going to damage the head. And once you got it finger tight, we'll use a torque wrench. It's set to 12 foot-pounds. Reinstall the boot. And that's all there is to it. Keep in mind that this is only the first in a series of videos of getting this bike, which has not been running for a while, back into running condition. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.